All right, and welcome back to Saturday Night Chit Chat. And I've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks on the show, and I can't tell you how excited I am as a bass player. Growing up seeing MTV, I used to see this gentleman all the time, and one of the reasons I started playing bass is give it up for Mr. Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot, Ozzy Osbourne, Whitesnake, Blue Oyster Cult, currently with the guest. I mean, I could just go on and on. I want to talk to him about that. It's like mercy. Keep him busy. But thanks so much. Hey, Rudy, how you doing this morning, tonight?
I am blessed beyond words. Thank you for asking.
Oh, that's
Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, well, I'm so happy that you're here. What part of the country are you in right now? Are you in? You're in LA, right?
I'm in the LA is kind of like many different little cities. It's a microcosm. So I would say I'm in Los Angeles County.
Okay,
on the edge of it. I'm in Woodland Hills.
Oh, okay. And have you been there for a bit, or have you like kind of still jumped around? Have you been there for a bit now?
We jumped around, but I've been married long enough. I met my wife 40 years ago. We've been together since, and yesterday was our 19th anniversary at this home that we're at.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Well, I always start off the show by asking everybody, for the last, whatever it is, 8, 9, well, I guess it's almost a year now, what have you been doing since this crazy pandemic started, both creatively, personally, just to kind of keep your mind and your creativity moving forward during this crazy time we went through?
Yeah, what happened when you're in a situation like a lockdown or in between projects, there's certain decisions you can make. And mine is in between projects, I'm always creative. Yeah. Because that's how I create my future project, by being creative. I just don't sit around and go, I just, I go into the next mode, next level. And the same thing with lockdown is you have two choices. You're either going to be creative and also, become more teachable. Yeah. I'm really into, what I do is the first few hours of the day, I get up at 6 this morning, and then I go right into YouTube. I have certain channels that I go to where there's some are musical, some are more, not necessarily in the field of learning to be a better human.
Sure, yeah.
According to the gods, to the laws of God, the universe. Yeah. And so I'm just open. I'm open. I pick up the bass. What I've been playing mostly now is a 6-string bass that is strong like a guitar. So I go from low E to high E. So the first 4 strings are the regular 45 to 105 set of strings. Then I add a 32 and a 28 gauge for the B and the high E. So I feel like I'm more open musically because I can play chords and melodies in the higher register, and I can play a little bit more, let's say, vertical. Yeah. Vertical, if you're looking at the frets, instead of going up and down the neck, I just play like this. Right. Play chords and really hear frequencies a little bit better, especially, at home. I would like to plug in or even wear headphones early in the morning so I can actually be more in an organic state. Yeah. Not having things in my ear like I do right now. Yeah, right. So because, I'm just kind of like, I'm totally a blank canvas in the morning. As a matter of fact, if you ask me, play something for me, not right now, I'm in my, exploratory part of the day. I'm exploring possibilities musically, and even life, possibilities, things that can really happen. Try to manifest them in my mind first, pre-visualize. I mean, this is something I've been doing even before I became a professional musician. Yeah. I pre-visualized what I wanted to do as a teenager. It wasn't really that it was not easy, because I'm one of the very few ones that will actually accomplish that, to get out of where I was at during my teen years. Yeah. I was in Miami, which is not the most rock and roll heavy metal town in the world, sure. Especially 60s and 70s, you know. Yeah. And I pre-visualized like, this is what I want to do. Yeah. I knew I had to get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, so I did all the vagabond, you know, rock and roll, you know, which was basically be homeless, and be at the mercy of the kindness of strangers to help you out, you know, and of course, you know, do jobs here and there, and you know, not live like. Actually, it's a paradox because you're homeless, but you're trying to put this rock star image across.
Sure.
So you're like in rock star mode all the time.
Right.
But there's a lot of uncertainties in your life. And, you know, everything that I look back at, everything that I've accomplished in my life, it's all been based on uncertainty. I really don't know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, you know, it's all part of God's plan. Yeah. And at some point, I just let, you know, a power greater than me, more intelligent than me, take over and say, okay, I'm doing this, but make it happen, you know, as it's supposed to be, you know, not going against the grain. Yeah. You know, so basically that's how I spend my days. That's how I spend, you know, this time in lockdown. And at the end of the day, you know, a year and some months later, after we've been on lockdown, I feel better than I've ever been in my whole life. Yeah. Really.
Yeah. Now, let me ask this. I'm not sure about that. Was bass your first instrument, or did you like a piano thing first, or like a guitar? Your guitar moved over to bass, or, you know, tell us about that. If bass was.
Let's say I was at the mercy of the 1960s U.S. school program. And I say U.S. because I went to school in Miami and New Jersey, so I experienced, and they're all basically the same thing. You know, you have your school music school program in the 60s, which is basically either marching band or whatever, you know, they had available at the time. Right. And so it was a lot of brass instruments, which if you live in a very small apartment, you know, your mom, because you know, my dad was working and my mom was at home. She's the one who had to like endure my practicing my trumpet. As a matter of fact, I have 8mm film because my dad was, you know, always filming us when we were kids. Yeah. Of me in the closet practicing my trumpet. Wow.
Almost like a little vocal booth, which, you know, like foreshadowing it. Yeah.
And then that was in Jersey, and I was a fat little kid, so I just didn't have the lung capacity to really play trumpet. So I just used to like pass out, you know. Yeah. So when we moved back to Miami, again, you know, the beginning of school, you go to that. I got there, I guess, a little late because all the cool instruments were taken, like drums, you know. Yeah. You know, if you're in a marching band, drums is as cool as it gets. Right. And so what was left is the trombone. And I said, okay, I wanna be a part of this, and this is the only thing that's left. I'm gonna go for it, you know. So you know, I once asked Jack Bruce, how do you go from being, you know, a cellist, to becoming, you know, one of the most influential bass players in the history of rock and roll? And he says, well, you can't pick up girls with a cello.
Right. Yeah.
And basically that's what happened. I figure, you know, unless you're playing in the band Chicago or Blood, Sweat and Tears, you can't really pick up meet girls, you know, playing the trombone. So that's when I decided, you know what, I better pick up a more sensible, you know,
straight from trombone to bass, or did you do like guitar first?
Oh no, bass was like the last thing I thought of. You know, it's kind of like, you know, like when you lose something or you're looking for something, you always find it at the last place that you look.
Yeah,
right. So the bass was the last place that I looked for something that resonated with me, you know, with my initial needs. Yeah. Having said that, it was done for me. By saying it was done for me is because I was playing. My parents bought my brother and me, because, you know, we were very poor when we were kids. And so we shared everything. Yeah. One bicycle, one pair of roller skates.
Sure, yeah.
One musical instrument, you know, that my parents bought. Of course, from the school band, I could pick up anything that was available, trombone or trumpet.
Right.
But if my parents were going to bring something into our house that they purchased, we have to share it. So they got us the Spiegel catalog. I don't think you're old enough to remember Spiegel catalog, but it was basically Amazon back in the day, where you order things catalog, you know.
Sure.
You buy things in the mail, which is actually pretty common nowadays, especially because of lockdown. You know, music stores are not open, so you order things in the mail now. Yeah. And so they got us this old Craftsman acoustic guitar. It had like these striped, zebra striped guitar. It was kind of like a Western guitar, you know, which is like, okay, I get this. It's kind of like the guitars that I saw on TV at the time, you know. And this is 1963, so this predated the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Yeah.
I was to turn 13 years old that year, and I'm 70. Okay, so you don't have to do the math. Okay, and so, you know, that was our instrument, you know, to listen to, you know, pick up melodies that I heard on the radio, doing like, you know, until I moved back to New Jersey. From New Jersey to Miami around 1966. And so I went down with that same guitar to my local, you know, garage band. Each block had a band. So if I live in this block, I had to I have to be a member of this band. I couldn't go across the street. You know, we had rules, you know.
Yeah.
And, so I walk in and introduce myself, and I say, I want to join your band, you know. And they go, well, we got too many guitar players. So if you want to play in our band, you have to play bass. And I go, what's that? And they go, well, bass is like, you know, it's like playing a guitar solo during the whole song.
Yeah, that's a cool way to look at it. I like that. There you go.
I said, I mean, you know, back then it was, you know, very melodic. You know, of course, McCartney and James Jamerson and, you know, Carol Kay and
of course,
which is what was on the radio. Yeah, there was a lot of melody and movement going on.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I played right up to the Mental Health record, because it changed. You know, there was a vision. There was a vision of what was happening, not necessarily what was happening, but what was to come.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes this is what's really interesting about the cusp right here, going from 70s to 80s. It wasn't just the musical style, it was the fact that communication and information travel faster.
Yeah.
Right at that cusp, thanks to MTV.
Yeah.
MTV allowed American audiences that might have never watched an international band, especially, you know, rock and roll, heavy metal, which was the focus of early MTV.
Yeah.
You know, let's say the Buggles. Nobody saw the Buggles before until they were the first video to be played.
Yeah.
Video killed the radio star, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, so I'm not just listening to local radio stations that are mostly playing domestic pop music. Yeah. Really, you know, of course, in the 80s, you had, you know, you had British bands coming in, but these were proven bands. Radio was not really breaking new acts as much as MTV did.
Right.
All of a sudden, MTV, just because of the simple fact that there were not enough videos, content available. So they were like, okay, give us anything, kind of like Netflix nowadays. Because there's no new productions for over a year. So they're bringing in like anything, you know, rejects, things that did not get the green light, you know, to get produced. And maybe you have like one season of something that got canceled. Bring it in because we need content. Because after, you know, from binging, which is even something we didn't have back then, because back then MTV had programming. Now if you want entertainment, you can binge watch, which means that you program your own playlist of audio on Spotify or whatever, or video, on YouTube. So what we're experiencing today, 40 years ago, that was the cusp of what we had at the time, which is MTV. And what MTV did is they started bringing in bands like Def Leppard. Of course, Def Leppard always saw it as a commercial version of AC/DC. If you look at it, it's pretty much that youthful rockin' arena rock, type of style. But this is where it follows into it for bass players. It's a very fundamental approach to playing the bass. And there's an art to it, just like there's an art to playing drums. Right. AC/DC style. And I know this because I was in a band with the second drummer from AC/DC, Simon Wright. We played in Dio together. Oh, nice. And I talked to him about that because I'm aware as a bass player about the function of the AC/DC rhythm section. That's what gives it that stamp. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's and rhythm section is not, to me, it's not just drum and bass, it's rhythm guitar also. And there's a certain function to that rhythm playing, just like if you were going to look at early Stones, you look at that rhythm section, bass and drums, and then you add Keith. That's a rhythm section, you know what I mean? So it's when Mental Health was being created, it was actually initially demos that were going to be presented to a major label to get a record deal. But in those days, if you made a demo in a professional studio, like Quiet Riot did, because the studio was the production company, then you were going to get professional results in your demo. Professionally enough that the label, the big label that was going to distribute the independent label, which was Pasha, would say, "Oh yeah, well these can go on the record because they sound like record, not a demo." Right. And when I went in to play just one song, I was still a member of Ozzy. And then of course I wound up playing except for two songs that were recorded before I joined the band, which is Mental Health and Don't Want to Let You Go. Those were recorded by Chuck Wright before I joined the band. And the rest of the record, I played on that. And there was a certain vision. Now, here I am, I'm playing with Ozzy. And I'm playing all of these Black Sabbath and Bob Daisley, Blizzard of Oz bass lines, Geezer Butler, and a lot of movement, very 70s. Right. And then all of a sudden, I go in to play with this band, Quiet Riot. But this is what really helped me to really get a grasp of the vision. Def Leppard was the opening band for Ozzy during the Blizzard of Oz tour. So I understood. I saw it every night. Def Leppard will come on and I will see the reaction of the audience. And I go, wow, it kind of sounds like AC/DC, but there's commerciality and a youth. See, AC/DC was a little bit mature by 1981. Sure. These guys are 16, 17 years old on tour with us, maybe 18, And I'm going like, wow, there's just like a certain, they're polished, they're professional, but there's a certain youthful attitude to their music and the sing-along. I mean, these guys were.
And there was a dance element too. I mean, there was a little bit of a dance, thing to them as well. A lot of those bands you're talking about, there's that groove aspect of it too.
Absolutely, and all that added up to these guys are on their way to the top. So I come back and the original version, the Randy Rhoads version of Quiet Riot was more glam. It was, I joined in 78, that have been around at least from, I mean, when I say around, it started out as a bunch of guys, Kelly Garney and Randy Rhoads getting together, their high school buddies. and they bring in Kevin DuBrow and do Forsyth. So it was kind of like, you know, started out as a party band, and then along the way, they decided to, okay, let's make a go of this. You know, we got this, and then, you know, something happened that I'm not gonna get into, and they get rid of Kelly, and they went through every bass player in town, and I was the last guy they looked at.
Oh, got it.
It's like, yeah, okay. So yeah, I was actually I was out of town when they were initially looking for bass players. So I had I bought my ticket to go back to LA, and then I get a phone call from Kevin to come on audition and say, yeah, we'll be there next week. So I'll see you then. And I got the gig. And
real quick, do you think it was, and this is about so many of the bands you play with, and I know a lot of viewers would like to know this, do you think it was, I mean, I'm sure obviously it was musical and there's a talent issue, but do you think it was talent, personality, a little combination of both? Like why Quiet, of all the bass players Quiet Riot tried out and all the other bands you play in, just generally, because you're everywhere and you've been everywhere, do you think, is it a personality thing, a musical thing, or just a combination of both? What's your opinion?
I'll tell you exactly what they told me. Okay. Why I got the gig. Because they were looking for a finger player. This is mid 70s. At the time, glam, or what was considered 70s rock, there were a lot of finger players. There was, because there was a lot of R&B and funk incorporated into the music. One of the big Kevin DuBrow influences was Humble Pie, Ridley. They were looking for that. Queen, John Deacon, fingers, right? So there were, so a lot of the guys that were around town, okay, we're looking at a very Kiss influence generation. Yeah. I was influenced by the Beatles 10 years before.
Sure.
This new generation was being influenced by Kiss. Of course, Gene Simmons, playing with the pick, and
right.
That sound and that attitude of playing, stuff like that. So I was exactly what they were looking for, that they couldn't find in LA at the time.
Wow, that's fascinating. Amazing. Wow. Yeah. And then the guy that you replaced, he was a finger player too as well. Like, I guess they were already doing that before he even what I recall is that he played with a pick. I don't think he played with the fingers. He played with a pick, and they wanted to get away from that. Got it.
They wanted to get more. Again, they were trying to introduce more feel, more groove.
Sure.
Into the band. Yeah.
And then Rudy, you also, I read that you taught too, right? Like both you and Randy both kind of taught for a while, right? Bass, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I taught bass and Randy taught guitar. Yeah. Now, having said that, before I joined, it was at his family's music school. It's called Musonia. It's still there in North Hollywood. And so I'm sure that at some point Randy might have taught somebody bass, but primarily his teaching was for guitar players.
Right.
And when their bass teacher left, Randy asked me to join and then teach there.
Oh, nice.
But it was mostly to kids who were fans of Quiet Riot.
Oh, got it. They want to.
It was one of those things.
Yeah.
It was kind of like we're fans of the band because. Having said that, okay, the Starwood, which is basically where the headquarters for Quiet Riot and a lot of the local bands, grew up, that we were coming up, we would play, one night would be, a recording international band playing, and then the next day would be for local bands, right. just to keep it going, keep it open with music. So just about everybody played there, at the Starwood, but it was an all ages place. It had a bar, and it had two rooms. One was like a disco room, and the other one was the rock room. And if you were underage, they would give you a stamp to show that do not serve drinks
right,
to this
sure.
underage person. So we got to play in front of a lot of kids.
Yeah.
You know, not just people that were of drinking age.
Right, right.
Which was the case in the other clubs that we played at around town.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating stuff. And then do you still do, I mean, do you still do any teaching, or did you do that like in different parts of your career? Was it just kind of more at the beginning of your career? Like master classes or anything like that at all?
Yeah. I do that because it's one thing that I took away from Randy's and mine relationship. It's the need to pass it along information. You know, I mean, I take so much from all of the musicians that, and I say musicians, not just bass players, because I usually go to more just music theory websites to learn music. Yeah, because you know, technique. I've been playing for professionally for 40. I've been playing for 50 years. Yeah. Right. And technique, it's something that, you know, as I get older, you know, there's certain things that I'm not necessarily limitations yet, because I'm not, my hands can still move, you know. Right. But there's certain adaptations that I need to do to my playing style. Like recently, I came to the conclusion that I've been playing, that I've been releasing my anger of a challenging childhood, because we were refugees. We left our country and came to the United States, and it's tough. Yeah, it's very tough. Yeah. So it coincided that within, let's say we arrived in 61, by 64, the Beatles, the British invasion. So I was able to take my angst on my sudden shift in life. You know, adaptation, loss of identity, being displaced, and, you know, all of that in music. Yeah. That became my vehicle for releasing that. Now, having said that, I developed some not fluid habits in my playing. I was pre-punk. Right. You know, I had a punk attitude, which shows. I mean, I look back and I go, oh, so that's why I'm beating on the bass. You know, just to release that.
One of my early memories is when I was a little kid seeing MTV, is always like memories of just music in general, because, you know, for me it was like the music and the visual and the oral was happening at the same time, was seeing you all play the bass with your hand on top of the neck. I always thought that was such a cool thing. You know, that was such a, and it almost became like a signature thing. When everybody, you could always use that as a reference point for you all the time with other bass players playing that. Did you do that? Was there like a conscious thing, or did you just, in a video you did it and someone commented, you just kind of kept doing it? Or, I mean, you know, it was such a neat thing.
No, that was just a passive aggressive rebellion. Yeah. Rebelling. Yeah. I'm not going to play like I'm supposed to play. I'm going to play like the way, you know, I'm going to go against that. Yeah. So, but it was very passive aggressive though. Yeah. It was kind of like, and I developed that playing in clubs. Now, when you played in clubs in Miami, there were at least one other band to play with. And, you know, I out of really a lot of respect for all the musicians, I mostly played on bills that the musicians were more educated than I was. Sure. You know, because to me, it all comes down to education. Yeah. You know, knowing what are you doing? Right. I played for a long time without really knowing what I was doing. I just knew that note and this note here worked. Yeah. And I'm playing the note that I hear on the record. So, you know, transcribing, I developed a way to, you know, to be able to transcribe quickly. Yeah. Before my mom started yelling at me, "You're gonna break the record player," because I kept playing the same part on a record. Yeah. You know. Sure. Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know what a record is or a record player it is, you can break it. Break the needle.
Well, vinyl's the big thing again, man. Yeah, vinyl's in. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Which is, it's nice to know. So what was I going to say? Yeah, so I developed a lot of bad habits, and it wasn't until recently that I came to terms with that and said, like, wow, look at what I've been doing. But not just what I've been doing, because I know I've been aggressive. The reason why I was doing it. So, I mean, there's certain style of music that I play. Okay, I have played with Ozzy, and I'm currently with a Guess Who. And I know, because there's certain things, music or lyrical content of the band like the Guess Who does not bring out of me the beast like playing with Ozzy would.
Sure.
Because the nature of the music.
Right.
But there's certain moments when that little button is pushed that I go into that, the Ozzy beast mode with the Guess Who, but I have to catch myself because I go, first of all, the audience, they're not from the Ozzy generation.
Yeah.
They're older. They're
Sure.
basically my age.
Yeah.
Sure. So it's like, these guys might have been a Woodstock, but they went there because Crosby, Stills and Nash or whatever. It was a softer generation.
Yeah.
It wasn't the metal generation. Of almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
And so I have to catch myself. I really, really do.
Wow. Well, we'll kind of start winding things up. I want to ask a question that I asked so many of everybody that's been on the show, basically. And, no one's a wizard, but it's fascinating and things are changing daily, as we know. But let's say the fall of this year, say fall of 2021, from your gut and your other musician friends and people in the industry you talk to, what do you think we're going to be at with live music, in fall of 2021? I mean, you think we're still a ways away? I mean, I know some festival stuff, outdoor stuff, but I'm thinking more like in terms of clubs and kind of touring type thing. You think a bit away from that still, or does that seem realistic, or what's your feeling on that?
No, my perception on things that I know from people in the industry, and I was really surprised about this, but it actually does make sense. I thought that the more guerrilla style bands, and by guerrilla style bands are the bands who do not rely on putting a tour together.
Right.
Which means that, let's say, Weekend Warriors.
Right, sure. Right.
Our band, the Guess Who, we're in that category that we can get a phone call and pretty much, the day before.
Yeah.
And go out and do a show because somebody can't make it.
Right.
Whereas, let's say a band like Metallica.
Yeah.
Motley Crue, they have to rely on routing.
Right.
To create a tour because they go out for months, which means that and it's the venue, it's the promoter, the venue, then they put the crew together, they put the production, they put everything, right? So those are a little bit more, you have to look into the future.
Yeah.
And today you have to figure out fall tours, right? Yeah. And I'm beginning to see that category of bands with solid tour dates.
Yeah.
June, July, August, September. I'm going like, wow, which means that, and especially if you're doing a Live Nation tour.
Yeah.
These guys are working in cooperation with the CDC. So everything they do, they follow guidelines. I know, I'm not going to say the name, but I know one of those bands that are doing Live Nation tours that it's mandatory for every single individual, band, crew, everybody to be vaccinated.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
They have to be vaccinated. Otherwise you're not on the tour.
Yeah.
So these are, this is if at this level of like the big tour, which is, if you, anytime that you cancel or postpone or reschedule a show, there's going to be financial loss. And these companies are in it to make money. They're not there to lose money, you know. So they know that they have to minimize any risk factor that there is. and they're, and I hear that insurance is going to really go through the roof this year. Yeah. Insurance for performances, because if there's a loss, let's say you cancel a show or reschedule it, that date is open. So there's a loss of revenue for that date. The venue, the people are not working in concession stands and security guards and the guys in the parking lot. Every time a band of that magnitude comes into town, it's a corporation that moves in for one day for 24 hours,
right,
and creates this financial, machine, that creates a lot of money for the local, for the local city, for the city revenue, So when there's a loss of that, people start saying, well, I gotta get paid because I had, they're basically guaranteed that they're going to make some money, just like money's being put into bank accounts of people who have to during lockdown by the government.
Yeah.
So instead of the government, will be an insurance agency that takes the risk if this show is going to happen or not.
Right.
So there's a lot of components that are finally coming together and beginning to move the gears, the little wheels that move the big ones.
Yeah. Right. Sure. Wow. What about and if you're able to speak about this, great. If not, you don't know yet, that's fine. But like, do you have anything on the books for the fall?
Yeah,
the
category that the Guess Who is in, since we do flyaway dates, means that every single show is independent from the other.
Okay.
It's not a tour.
Right.
Let's say we're touring with Live Nation and they line up all the shows. No, we're independent because we do mostly the casino circuit.
Sure.
They're independent shows.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that the shows that we had already booked last year, that were moved to this year. In addition, no new shows for this year are being put it into our calendar. They're being added as CDC starts opening their guidelines.
Yeah.
So we're going to be very busy, God willing, from June, the end of June on to the end of the year. And we already have dates for the following year too.
Sure.
And some of them are cruises that were canceled from last year, this year, hoping for next year.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What about, do you have any recording projects or anything you got in the works, like with you or working with other people or, anything on that front?
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for?
Yeah. Well, it's usually independent stuff, meaning that I record for anybody. I just want to make music, it has to be sensible,
Sure,
of course.
Yeah.
But I record anything from remakes, re-recordings of like popular songs, and we put a little video together.
Oh, nice.
We did one recently, Superstition.
Oh, right.
With Jeff Scott Soto and Steve Stevens, Spike Edney, who is the keyboardist for Queen.
Yeah.
And Mike Sugarfoot, the drummer for Stevie Wonder.
Oh, wow.
See, and when we do these projects, as you probably know how it's done because you probably do them yourself.
Yeah.
You start with the drums as the foundation.
Right.
Once I'm locking in with Sugarfoot, it's like, okay, he's playing it just like the record. I gotta play this just like record, which was really interesting because all of a sudden, and I played that song. I started playing that song when the song first went on the radio.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it was one of those things that is like you have to learn it quickly, and when you're like playing in clubs, you have a lot of freedom.
Right.
That's a lot of feeling like, let me experiment. Let's play a little more like John Paul Jones will play it because, I'm a rocker,
Yeah.
And again, the passive aggressive, right? Okay. So now, I'm more mature and I have this privilege of playing it with Stevie Wonder's drummer. And he's laying down the groove and I go, I gotta play this just like Stevie. and God meant it to be.
Yeah.
So I started really listening to it, and I'm going, oh. And everything starts making sense all of a sudden. And it's like this revelation. It's like, wow, this is actually Stevie Wonder playing the bass on a synthesizer bass with his left hand. So he's not playing like a bass player.
Right.
He's making these feel and decisions because it's him. He's the producer. He doesn't have somebody telling him, you know what? Can you play more like a bass player?
Right, right.
It's Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
It's all his vision. I'm going, whoa, no wonder this is so timeless.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't realize what makes music magical.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you have like Paul McCartney recording Maybe I'm Amazed, that's just him at his farm in Scotland. And I hear they didn't even have running water in a little room with a reel-to-reel recording this by himself.
Yeah.
Maybe having Linda McCartney singing some harmonies, but it's him.
Yeah.
He's playing the drums, he's playing the guitar, he's playing the keyboards, he's playing the bass, he's singing. And it's like this it's kind of like the difference of having Van Gogh painting a picture by himself or having his friends add strokes to it.
Yeah, right.
No, it's the vision of one person. This is what you're gonna get. This is my masterpiece, And it was really a learning experience, looking at bass through the eyes of Stevie Wonder's, his ears too. Yeah.
That's I've been lucky enough to work. I was lucky enough to work with I don't know if you know Bernie Worrell is, but from P-Funk and Talking Heads and stuff. And he, same thing. I would learn, so much of what he played in P-Funk were bass lines, but he's playing them on keys, and sitting there learning all those the way he would do phrasing, and Bernie was so cool because he was trying to almost mimic what a bass player would do in terms of the fills, in terms of the feel, but he would be playing it on keyboard, and then so I'm a bass player trying to mimic a keyboard player mimicking a bass player. So it's like you learn. It just made you think so differently. It was so inspiring,
Absolutely. And when you have when you're listening to somebody like Stevie Wonder, he knows how to fill the track. It's a very simple track. You got the clavinet, and it might be like a double clavinet, like a double track clavinet.
Right.
And so it's got drums, clavinet, bass, and then the hits, with the I don't know if I don't even know if it's
right.
The horns.
Yeah.
It could be real horns. There could be some synthesizers. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, he's such a genius.
Yeah.
Have you ever actually been in the presence of his synthesizer, Tonto?
No.
Okay, there's the synthesizer, and it's an old. It's like one of the first synthesizers ever built. This thing is like something out of Star Trek.
Wow.
It's on display at the National Music Center in Calgary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And also they have
Is it the kind with all the things with like the different things you push? Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go online and search for Tonto Stevie Wonder. That was the name of his keyboard.
Oh, nice.
And this thing could emulate anything. Of course, he had an engineer and people that built it, for him and all that. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's horns stacked with synthesizer because it's so freaking tight.
Yeah.
And so the way that he plays the bass on it, first of all, it sounds like it's one or two takes because there's variations of it.
Right. Sure. Right.
He felt like playing it this way on this verse, and he played it this way on the other verse, the last verse, the outro. And there's like the first time they go, he doesn't play that. He just plays, he go, it's almost like, oh, I missed that part because, he's recording everything himself.
Right.
So he might not know that is where that next section comes in.
Yeah.
So it was really, and I had to catch that.
Wow.
So the first verse, when it goes go, right?
Yep.
And so and then it comes in that it just keeps playing with the same feel as the verse,
right?
The first half of the verse,
yeah.
You know, and then he catches himself, and there it is. You know, he'll start doing the fill. You know,
yeah.
The horn line with
yeah. Oh, that's incredible. That's funny. It reminds me of you know, "Thank You" by Sly and the Family Stone. You know, Larry Graham. I've played that song probably a million times. Every time I listen to it, I'll listen. I'm like, oh, I didn't know he was doing that. I didn't know he was doing that. Like I mean, you can get the basic thing fairly quickly, but it's like there was like the way, you know, because they were probably just letting the tape roll, and he was like, he probably can't even remember exactly how he did it, because it was like he was just letting it roll. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I was on my show, 6 Degrees of Sarzo. I was doing an interview with Carmine Rojas, and he was telling me about the first time he went in the studio was with LaBelle. Patti LaBelle's band, right?
Sure, yeah.
And Stevie Wonder was producing some of the tracks, and he says that, you know, first of all, it was you know, with Stevie Wonder, right? So he was like freaking out, and he was coming out with things, and Stevie would say yes, no, and then he says, okay, that's great, and it was like he forgot what he had just played.
right.
So he says in every verse he just plays something different, which to me really adds to the mojo of the song. You know, not being predictable. You know, not being. This is you probably do this too, but you know, now with Pro Tools, you know, some people go, oh yeah, I'm going to cut and paste this, that here. And I never do that. What I might do if I'm learning a song, because, you know, I get tracks, people send me tracks to play on.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, wow, you know, first of all, I wish I was in pre-production with this band so I could actually learn the song before I'm actually recording it. So I'm going to say, you know what, the best way I can do is like, let me capture the verse. So there's usually 3 verses. Okay, I got verse 1. Okay, great. Now I move. Now I know the verse, but I'm gonna play different now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like second verse. Ooh, I'm gonna play different. I'm gonna listen to the lyrics, which I already did in verse 1. But usually the singer, if he's a really good singer, he'll sing each verse with different inflections.
Yeah.
Choice of notes. He might do an octave of the same note, or you know, or whatever, right? So I'm gonna catch that, because my bass line is also gonna be to support the melody of the vocalist.
Yeah.
So if he goes out, or even if lyrically, and let's say Ronnie James Dio was a master at this, he would sing the note, you know, like say down. He'll sing down. He will not go down or down or level down. You know, he'll give you the down. So you go with that.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? You capture whatever the emotion of the vocal.
That's great.
Whether it's melodically or lyrically.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, you're right. It's dangerous. I mean, obviously Pro Tools and Logic and all that stuff, it's an amazing writing tool, but you do have to be careful of, you know, you hear somebody that cut and pasting, and it's just every 4 bars starts sounding redundant, and the same thing too as well. You know, it loses the personality of the music. So
yeah, exactly. It becomes predictable because the ear knows.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Well, Rudy, I can't thank you so much for being on. I could talk to you all day long. Talk music with you. It's just, you're just such an inspiration. I always like all the bass play. I mean, I love being crazy and fancy on the bass, but the thing that to me as a bass player are always the bass players that are like songwriters. I had Billy Sheehan on about a month ago, and we talked about like, it's like, he's known for being super flashy and all that stuff, but he said, same thing with me. It's about the song, and it always comes down to that. And you were obviously one of those people. And it's just so great having you on, and I wish you all the success. And I'm with your touring and moving forward on everything, and learn more Stevie Wonder songs, I guess, is the thing that we learned from today. Yes. All right. You have a wonderful day. Thanks for being on the show.
You too. God bless you.
All right. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
You too.